Hello and welcome to Stocks Down Under. I'm one of the editors of our publication. My name is Stuart Roberts. And with me on the 30th of September 2021 is Mr. Lindsay Dudfield, who's an Executive Director of Jindalee Resources, ASX JRL. Lindsay, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Stuart. How are you?
Well, I'm feeling great because 2 weeks out of lockdown, I'll be able to cut this hair off, which is going all over the place. You've obviously been to the barber earlier than I have in the relatively free state of Western Australia.
Yeah, no, look, Perth, we've got a pretty well life as it was pre-COVID. As you would have seen, the AFL Grand Final was held here last weekend, and you know, it was a great success, and you know, life's pretty well back to normal, apart from we can't travel both to interstate and overseas. So that's a bit frustrating. Yes. But other than that, look, we can't complain. And as you say, yes, I have been able to get to the barber.
Look, very frustrating for you because Jindalee's potential company maker is the McDermitt Lithium Project, which straddles the border of Oregon and Nevada in the western part of the United States. That's a long way to go when you're locked into the hermit state of Western Australia.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've been lucky. We've got good people on the ground there that we've been able to enlist to assist our program. So, for example, last year we managed to get drilling done towards the end of the calendar year, which we didn't expect was going to happen because we couldn't get over there to organise things, and then there was COVID. Obviously, was quite rife through the US late 2020. In fact, actually, we had to in the end we had to cut our program short mid-December because the drillers came back from Thanksgiving with COVID, and,
right.
and you know, duty of care to not only to them but our obviously our consultants that we'd engaged directly. We shut the program down. But despite that, we managed to get enough holes drilled into McDermott to enable us to announce in April a significant increase to the resource. And McDermott's now the largest lithium deposit in the United States by contained lithium in resource.
Right, 10.1 million tonnes of lithium carbonate equivalent. And more if you adjust the cutoff grade somewhat. What's instructive to me is you're only 200 miles from Reno, Nevada, where Tesla has that magnificent Gigafactory, which is going to need a heck of a lot more lithium before they're through expanding that plant, right?
Yeah, well, look, I think the US generally is going to need a lot of lithium. They've got very ambitious plans for the electrification of the US economy. But, you know, they're not the only jurisdiction in the world that's also embraced, you know, the new energy. You know, Europe is legislating, basically legislating internal combustion engines out of the jurisdiction, and the Chinese have certainly gone very big on EVs as well. So you can see there's almost like a perfect storm if you happen to hold a large lithium deposit, you know, like Jindalee does, where you've got incredible demand looming, but a real question mark as to where the lithium to meet this demand for EVs is going to come from.
Yeah. Now, what's impressive about your deposit? Aussie investors have got to know the brine plays quite well, and the hard rock plays trapped in the pegmatites. This is a different kettle of fish again, and potentially quite an economic kettle of fish in terms of sediment hosting. Your rocks are so young; they're relatively spring chickens at the Miocene age. Your deposit's fairly shallow, as far as I can tell, looking at the charts. So potentially, and obviously you have no hard data on this that you can share with us, but potentially a low-cost deposit that'll be relatively easy to work in an environment where the end product can easily convert into lithium hydroxide or lithium carbonate.
Yes, the mining costs will be low. I mean, we just put out a scoping study earlier this month. Unfortunately, because of the mix of inferred to indicated, ASX have got sort of quite strict reporting guidelines, and we were unable. We tried to, but we were unable to include. You know, production rates, you know, financial metrics, etc. You know, they were effectively, you know, ASX asked us to remove those.
Sure.
But what we were able to say, is that look, it was a positive scoping study. We couldn't tell the market how positive, but the NPV, it couldn't be included, but it's many multiples of our current market capitalisation. We weren't able to give an indication of a concise indication of the life of mine, but we were able to say that it's many decades. So McDermitt deposit does have the potential to produce lithium carbonate for the US battery market for decades, many decades. Right. And and that's just on the current resource that fell within an optimized open pit shell. Outside of that resource, there's also a very large exploration target there, which has the potential also to be converted to resource with additional drilling. And so, you could be looking at a mine life of plus 100 years, all other things being equal.
Right. Now, some people who know the US mining scene might be concerned at this. So you're actually on the Oregon side of the Oregon-Nevada border. Oregon's very much a blue state, Nevada very much a red state. Do you anticipate having to jump through a few more regulatory hurdles, given you're on the north of that border?
Yeah, look, I think that's a correct assumption, Stuart. I think and that's partly because Oregon doesn't have a mining history. Right. Nevada, has a very strong history, particularly in gold mining, and so approving mining operations in Nevada. The authorities are a lot more comfortable with that than the Oregon regulators. Right. But I do expect there'll be more hurdles that we'll have to clear before the project can be developed. But having said that, also I think there'll be a national imperative to secure lithium for the US EV makers. Right. There, as I think I said, I indicated earlier, there's a looming shortage of lithium globally. Demand from China, demand from Europe, and now North America starting, a bit behind the curve, but trying hard to catch up. And certainly, Biden is basically pushing very hard for the electrification of the US. Right. And that's not just EVs. I mean, there's also battery storage as well coming behind that. So, and where's the lithium going to come from? The head of the Department of Energy has made it very clear that they want to have domestic supply, and control of the supply chain from the mine right down, to the product that's produced, whether it be an EV or a storage battery. So to do that, they're going to have to permit a lot more of these lithium deposits than currently. And at the moment there's only one fully permitted and operating lithium mine in the US, and that's a rather old brine deposit in Nevada, which is owned by Albemarle, and that's it. All of their lithium currently is imported. So
right. Now, we talked about Thacker just down the road, owned by Lithium Americas. Now, that's a company with a number of arrows in its quiver, but they're capitalized at $3 billion at the moment. The comparison I really like with you is Piedmont Lithium, developing that their hard rock play in the tin lithium belt in South Carolina. A while ago, you could get them for less than the market cap you're trading at the moment. Subsequently, thanks to getting friendly with Elon Musk, they're now capitalized at more than $1 billion. And the commonality, obviously, is short supply chains. To be able to have well-provenanced lithium that can easily feed into those gigafactories where you've got a company that's doing the right thing. In an environment where not only is the public policy angle pushing hard, but even the lithium prices are going well, everything's moving in your favor, it's fair to say.
Yes, I mean, look, it's not without challenges. Obviously, it was very frustrating for our shareholders and I guess interested investors that we weren't able to communicate the metrics of the our McDermitt project, that came out of the scoping study to to the market generally. I mean, the ironic thing is, if you are, Elon Musk, and you take a fancy to our McDermitt project, you can sign a CA and get 100+ pages of detailed scoping study and make a very informed decision as to the value of the project. But unfortunately, we can't communicate that to our shareholders in the market generally. It is very frustrating.
Yeah, you're only a few drilling campaigns away from being able to convert some of those inferred resources into indicated and maybe measured, right?
Yeah, one drilling campaign. So we've got 2 rigs booked at the moment, an RC rig and a diamond rig. We're currently permitting mainly infill drilling, actually, as you said, Stuart, to convert inferred to indicated and be able to then, report those metrics, in a lot more detail, the sort of detail that we'd like to be able to report them in. That drilling will commence in the, it'll be the December quarter now, probably towards the end of October. All going well, assuming the permitting comes through, on time. So
now, for investors who don't know that part of America, some parts of Nevada, being a little bit mountainous up in the north, tend to be seasonally constrained in terms of when you can do that sort of stuff. Is that a problem at McDermott?
We're more constrained because, as part of the permitting of our drill holes, we've said there are certain times of the year that we won't drill. So we've basically said that we won't drill from January through till end of June. So there's 6 months of the year when we won't drill. And that's, for example, we share the area with ranchers. They run cattle through through the sagebush in spring,
right?
And so we don't want to cut up the tracks, driving around in winter and early spring after the snow, starts to melt, and create a mess. And there's also, there's some sensitivities with environmental, sort of fauna that we also are working around. So, we've had no problem to date getting all of the holes that we've drilled permitted. It's just taken time.
All right.
And we expect, that'll be the case. But yes, there is seasonality. It's a kind of if you like, an agreement that we've got between ourselves and the regulators, that, and also the local ranching community, that we won't disturb any of their sensitivities, for the first 6 months of the calendar year.
All right. So ideally, we get that last drilling campaign done before Christmas, basically. What's the likelihood that the regulators will give you the go-ahead before that window shuts?
We're pretty confident we'll get it in one form or another.
All right, good. Well, now's a good time to be Lindsay Dudfield and his colleagues, I must say.
Oh, look, I mean, as I said, Stuart, these are very, very large deposits. The mining well, the scoping study has demonstrated that the mining costs are low, as you would expect, because you've got mineralisation from surface in soft, very soft rocks. The challenge to these deposits is the metallurgy, extracting the lithium and purifying it in the most cost-effective way. And we're spending quite a lot of effort on metallurgy. In fact, we've just engaged a very highly regarded group of metallurgists. There's about 7 in the team, I think, who are actually based in Perth and who specialise only in lithium. That's all they do. Okay. And they have worked on the pegmatite deposits.
I'm guessing Greenbushes have probably kicked around these guys you're talking to.
Yeah. Well, they've set up a lot of the metallurgical teams that are currently now in say, for example, WA pegmatite operations. Right. A lot of them got started with this group's expertise. So we're spending a lot of time on that. We've got about 1,000 kilos of material currently being beneficiated in Colorado for met test work. And so that's the key to it, is to, and that's really what we're going to continue to do. We've also started the environmental sort of side of the permitting process. So there's a longer lead time items that you need to address, and that's commenced as well. So that's going on in the background, and certainly the metallurgy. If any sort of improvements on the flow sheet, an optimization of the flow sheet, that just goes straight to the bottom line. So,
all right. So before we press the record button, you were sharing something of your history prior to McDermitt. A lot of investors won't know that you and Jindalee were part of the team that developed the big lithium project that ended up at Burghley around the old uranium project in the Northern Territory.
That was a uranium deposit. Yeah, right. Jindalee.
You were going for lithium and then ended up with uranium.
Yeah, right. That's right. Now, look, we're a project generator. We've been listed since 2002. We did our first capital raising in 2019. So consequently, we've got a very tight capital structure. We've got just under 55 shares issue. And most of our shareholders have been with the company since we listed in 2002. And we spun out Energy Metals as a dedicated uranium explorer in 2005. It was a priority entitlement to shareholders, and they did very well out of that. It was a great performer in the market. We got the timing perfect, and we then paid that company was subsequently Energy Metals subsequently taken over by the largest Chinese nuclear power company, China Guangdong Nuclear Power. They used to be called, they're now called China General Nuclear, or CGN. In the GFC for a cash takeout, which was was a great return for our investors. We then paid, Jindalee was the largest shareholder in Energy Metals, and we paid a 55-cent fully franked dividend to our shareholders on the sale of 70% of our EME or Energy Metals stake. And so, we're looking to do the same thing again with McDermott. We're adding value to it because, we think this is going to be a transforming project. There'll be a point at which we'll introduce a partner or otherwise, look to monetize the project for the benefit of our shareholders. So it's very, very tight. As I said, very tightly held. Management have got about 30% of the company. So we've got plenty of skin in the game. So we think, like shareholders, our interests are directly aligned, and what's good for the shareholders is good for us. So. Yeah.
Lindsay Dudfield, thanks for sharing the story of McDermott, and well done on what you've achieved today. Good luck for the next stage of the journey.
Yeah, no, thanks, Stuart. Lovely to chat.